Welcome back to Kier's Common Game. Today, in deck number 976, we're going to talk about Neva, Stalked by Nightmares. So she's a 4-mana 2-2. That's 976? I'm sorry. Wow, I've been at this for a long time. Anyway, 2-2 Maness. When Neva enters the battlefield, return target creature or enchantment card from your graveyard to your hand. Okay. Whenever an enchantment you control is put into a graveyard from the battlefield, put a 1/1 counter on Neva and then scry 1. Now, I'm sure there are ways to do this properly, and I'm sure that I didn't. I can think of like sagas, because sagas will trigger and put themselves in the graveyard. Sacrifice effects, I have a few of those, but mainly I wanted to play enchantments bold enough to where my opponents are forced to destroy them. I mean, call it what it is, right? So, and of course, it is an enchantment deck. Before we get into it, there is, I do want to show you, it's been a while since I've shown it. We all know Smothering Tithe. Whenever an opponent draws a card, that player may pay 2. If they don't, create a treasure. This is the new, do you pay the 1? Do you pay the 2? It's super annoying. A lot of people don't. If you can get it down early game, turn 2, turn 3, people don't have the mana to pay it if they're going to play anything. So it does net you some treasures. But since we are playing black, I am running into Revel in Riches. Now, this is silly. Whenever a creature an opponent controls dies, you get a treasure. And at the beginning of your upkeep, if you control 10 or more treasures, you just win. Yeah, it is a 2-card win combo. There are other cards in here that generate a little bit of treasures. But anyway, I wanted to get that out of the way before we get into our normal categories, Ramp, Soul Ring, Arcane Signet, Mind Stone, Burnished Heart, Commander Sphere, and I'm going to count Explorer Scope as ramp. Because, what is it? 38% of the time it's going to be. Yeah. We have card draw. Now, we only have one Enchantress because we're not playing green. But the Mesa Enchantress, I do have, quote-unquote, another copy, if you will, a Vampiric Tutor to go find the Mesa Enchantress, because that's really what it's in there for. Now, I know if I lend this stick out, people will be tempted to tutor for the other half of the Smothering Tithe, Revel in Riches combo. Smothered in Riches? Smothered in Riches? Yeah, that's what we'll call that. But Howling Mine, just what it is. And Howling Mine can win you some, points at the table. And then the Smuggler's Share. So, this is not bad. It also doubles as treasure making. And somebody out there is always drawing extra cards. It might help you. Now, we have got Auras. Auras is probably another good way to run this, too. We have Spirit Link. Now, I love Spirit Link because it is both offensive and defensive. Especially in a big multiplayer game, I will throw this on somebody else's creature. If somebody has something unblockable or a big old giant indestructible thing, man, I will throw it on there. Now, you can still die to commander damage if you put it on a commander that attacks you. It'll do the damage, you'll gain that much life, but it's still commander damage, so, there's that. But there's many other uses, or we can just strap it on our own guy. All That Glitters. All That Glitters counts every artifact and enchantment you control. Now, Ethereal Armor just counts enchantments, but it also passes out the first strike. And Timely Ward. I love the flash on it. Love the flash. No, I don't think you're killing my commander. Now we've got... Let's do enchantment creatures next, shall we? We will do enchantment creatures. How about the archetype of Courage? We're going to have the first strike. Ain't nobody else going to have the first strike. And the archetype of Finality. Death Touch. That's pretty sweet if nobody can have Death Touch. We have the Grim Guardian. It has Enchantment Fall. That's what Constellation is, you know. Enchantment Fall, each opponent loses one. Ghostblade Eidolon, double strike. I mean, you can make a Voltron that way. Eidolon of Countless Battles. It's +1/+1 for each creature you control. Yeah, I see what I'm saying. Just everybody's favorite Nyx Fleece Ram. It's a great early play. That 0/5 body means that all of those early points of damage, and that don't seem like a lot, but 4 or 5 damage at the beginning of the game doesn't feel like a lot, but 4 or 5 damage at the end of the game is huge. And you save that by having a 0/5 blocker in the early game. The Underworld Coinsmith has Constellation, Gain a Life. Of course, Daxos, you know, big toughness. Daxos and Timurit have big reputations. They're both big toughnesses. Then we have the Nykthos Paragon. That many 1/1 counters. Yeah, when you gain life, do this only once each turn. So now we got good old-fashioned enchantments. And we're going to start with one of my favorite all-time enchantments that will get you targeted, you know, Underworld Dreams. We got Howling Mine and Underworld Dreams. What year is this? But Flowering of the White Tree, I like this. You know, it's a good duelist heritage. Blind Obedience, Extort, that's going to gain you some life. Cacophony Unleashed. Yeah, destroy all non-enchantment creatures is pretty neat. Solitary Confinement. Now, here is what I love about Solitary Confinement. Y'all already saw the Necropotence, so we're already skipping our draw step. So that's not a thing. If we have Necropotence and Solitary Confinement both in play, then the skip your draw step is not even on Solitary Confinement. You have Shroud, prevent all damage that would be dealt to you, and our life gaining from extorting and lifelink and all that jazz. I'm sorry, that was Underworld Dreams you saw. That's Necropotence. I got ahead of myself. Copy, cut, paste what I just said. Right here. Have the Witch's Vanity. There's a saga. I mean, you know, it comes, does its thing. We get the aura when it leaves, and it triggers. So, you know, hey. We have Court of Lochthane. I like being the Monarch. Virtue of Persistence. A Graveyard. There's a reason why this Joker costs 7 mana. Then, of course, we have Virtue of Loyalty. Put a 1/1 counter on your team. Why not? Court of Ardenvale. Now, the courts were only available in the Commander decks, I believe. Sanguine Bond. Black-white enchantment decks just don't happen a lot, but I like it when they do because we get stuff like Sanguine Bond and No Mercy. And yes, I could have ran the Blood Bond combo in here as well. I didn't have a set. In this particular deck, I wouldn't have a problem with it because they are both enchantments. They do fit the theme. And the power level is of a comparable thing with the other cards. Now, Cradle of Vitality. Here's another gain life thing. Now let's look at creatures. The few creatures that got selected that are not enchantments. There's 6 of them. We're going to start off with Runetail. Yeah, I know. Best case scenario is you turn 1 Soul Ring, turn 2 Runetail, and you cast it, flip it, and your creatures now can't take damage, and it's an enchantment. Yeah. Anyway, Archon of Sun's Grace. You know, Constellation, get a Pegasus. Your Pegasi have lifelink. About Mirkwood Bats. Whenever you create or sacrifice a token, because we're making all the treasures, Yeah, you see where we're going. Assault Intercessor. Got to get a little 40k in here. Whenever a creature an opponent controls dies, that player loses 2 life. Y'all hadn't seen the removal suite yet. It's pretty good, but this is clearly a placeholder. Divinity of Pride ain't, though. 8/8 flying life linking for 5 mana. Sounds pretty good. Now, I hope you draw better than I do, because I normally draw this thing after I'm no kidding, I'll be at 24 life. But then we also have the Blood Baron of Viscopa, which is really large and life linky, and 10/10. Sure, I like those. Now there is one card I have out here that does help a little bit with the old enchantment process, to replenish. I know it's an expensive old reserveless card. I don't have that many. This one's just been chilling, waiting on a deck, and I figured it was better used here in green-white enchantment decks. You have so many other options, so I figured I'll put it here in the black-white one. Now let's look at some removal, shall we? We have Seal of Cleansing. Ideally, I would have Seal of Doom in here as well. I do not, but I should, because, I have a Soul Snare, enchantment. This, I really like Soul Snare, because it just being on the table, hey, what does that do? And you read it to them, and they're like, oh. It's a trick they see. And some would argue that tricks you see are less effective than a path or sword, but it will steer creatures away from you. That's what I like. Of course, pacifism is good. The Darksteel Mutation. What I love about it is it loses all other abilities. So that's beautiful. Oblivion Ring. Now, we do have the spell stuff, Stroke of Midnight, Mortify, Anguished Unmaking. But then we've got our board wipes, the Kurtar's Wrath, Kaya's Wrath. Everybody's got all kinds of wrath. Fumigate, and Extinguish All Hope, which, of course, has to be in the deck. And that'll take us to our non-basics, Orzhov Basilica, Isolated Chapel, Ash Barrens, Restless Forests, Shine Shadow Snarl, Sunlit March, Command Tower, Orzhov Basilica, Vault of Champions, Scoured Barrens, and Temple of Silence. And that is what I have got for Neva. Neva? I don't know. Anyway, that's what we've got for today. I appreciate y'all watching. Thank you so much. You don't know how much it means to me. But we're going to go ahead and shuffle and cut.